This is Andy Purewal for ID Boxing. I am joined by trainer Shane McGuigan over Zoom. Shane, firstly, how are you?
Good, thanks, mate. Just got home.
Good to hear. Obviously,
Should have been at the weigh-in, and then
oh
we should be
yeah.
fighting tomorrow. But yeah,
Obviously, we will come on to that matter shortly. But firstly, I haven't spoken to you firstly about kind of enjoying fatherhood. How are you finding that now?
good, mate. Yeah, he's just next door getting fed. So sleepless nights are definitely happening. But no, it's great. It's amazing.
I'm glad to hear it. As you mentioned to me earlier on, obviously you should have been at the weigh-in today for Ellie
Yeah,
Scotney's next outing. That card got pulled yesterday because of the adverse finding in Conor Benn's VADA test. Just firstly, obviously on Ellie's front, how disappointed are you guys as a team? And just to walk me through how Ellie's feeling at this moment in time.
yeah. Ellie's disappointed. Of course, as you would be. She's trained since mid June the whole way through. So done a great camp. She's been sparring with Kayla Mayer. She's done rounds with loads of great fighters. And she's sparred some guys as well. I think she's done about 150 rounds of sparring. And got her weight down. She's working with a new nutritionist at the moment. She's there. She was flying.
What were your understanding and Ellie's understanding about the entire situation? Was there ever a point when it might have even looked like the undercard might have still been able to fight?
Yeah, that's what we were hoping for. Even thinking outside the box, you're thinking, why doesn't Felix Cash jump in? But people like Eubank Jr, he's boiled himself down to an unnatural weight for that fight. We've done promotions in the past. We understand what it's like. If you change an opponent, it's not easy, especially if there's an attraction from the two people at the headline. And if it's just one person like AJ boxes Carlos Takam, and then you change it to Pulev, for instance, people are still going to go and watch AJ. But when they're buying tickets to watch, some buying tickets to watch Conor Benn, some buying tickets to watch Eubank Jr. Yeah, you can't just suddenly just change it up and say, right, Felix Cash is in there or some other middleweight or whatever. And also for the undercard, no one got allocated tickets. So they sold so quick, no one got allocated tickets. So you couldn't just say, all right, well, your allocations of tickets and we'll just downsize the arena because no one got their tickets. So they would have had to then moved it across to like a York Hall or something. And yeah, it was too much. So they did the right thing, cancelling the whole show. As disappointing as it is for everyone involved.
You obviously saying they did the right thing, Shane. Was you surprised at kind of the way that the entire day fell, and obviously Matchroom and Wasserman's pushed to try and get the show on up until that very last moment when Eddie and Khaled made their statement?
I was surprised. I mean, I thought, with that finding, I thought it was going to be a straight, rescheduling or. Also, I've heard rumours that the test came out weeks ago, and I don't quite understand if that was the case. Why no one was alerted and notified up until 3 days before the fight or whatever. 2 days before the weigh. It's extremely frustrating for everyone involved. But you have to understand from Eddie and Calla and DAZN's point of view, they've pumped. I would say they've pumped millions, maybe close to $1 million into this, into advertising this fight. I was driving along, and you're driving along in the middle of London, and these billboards are flashing up of Conor Benn versus Chris Eubank Jr. They've spent a fortune on advertisement. It was DAZN's chance to draw a different audience to the channel, and with that, they really had a massive push. So it was a huge hit for them. Not only just the fighters.
What did you make of? Oh, sorry, didn't know you.
So going back to that, I understand why they would feel like they would try at any means possible to continue to get this fight on. Especially from a TV point of view and from a promoter's point of view. Chris Eubank Jr., the way he'd be looking at it is he's boxing a welterweight coming up. Doesn't justify anyone doing any form of performance enhancing drugs, but if you said, Golovkin or whoever else, a middleweight is on gear, you would think twice about entering it. But because he's a middleweight, a fully fledged middleweight, boxing a guy that's smaller, that's probably why he considered continuing to take the fight. but yeah, listen, it's a terrible advertisement for boxing, and I think the right decision was made.
Shane, just take me back to when kind of the news broke from the Daily Mail about the adverse finding. What went through your mind at that moment in time?
Disappointment, really. I know, even though UCAD didn't recognise the jug, you could sense that the fight wasn't going to go ahead, and selfishly, I was thinking about Ellie's point of view, but yeah, just disappointed. I mean, Conor's. I've seen Conor in training. I've had guys out sparring with him, and Tony Sims is a good guy. He's a good man. You got Dan Lawrence, all part of his team. It doesn't just affect Conor. This affects the whole team. And that's where it's sad and shady, and frustrating for not just Conor, for everyone involved in his team. So yeah. Disappointed is the main sort of emotion I would have said when I heard the news.
It's obviously not going ahead now, Shane, but just because of how it's all unfolded, how it was all handled, what type of light do you feel this has left the sport in?
Not the best light. This is drawn in. Sorry, there's a washing machine. I don't know if you hear in the background. It's meant I'm trying to wait for it to start. Anyway, yeah. So this is it's just drawing in it was going to draw in a different audience. People that watched Nigel Benn, watched Chris Eubank Senior box, on terrestrial television, and had millions of people watching them. It was going to bring in dormant fans, people that would have tuned in for the AJs and stuff, but they were maybe tuning in on Sky. I was going to bring it to a different platform, and I've got a few fighters in the zone, and it's you want that platform to get numbers, because you want your fights to be seen, and I think it was going to be a massive push from them, and it's just left it in it's just left a bad taste, and it's our life, it's our lifestyle. None of my fighters have tested positive ever, and we're fair. I'm not pointing the finger at no one. I'm saying we're fair. We don't really look for other advantages and stuff. We just train, eat, fuel up, recover, electrolytes. It's simple stuff, and it's a skill sport, and let the skills do the talking effectively. And it's annoying that people that are general public and casual fans, as you were, but just boxing fans, are now pointing the finger at athletes and thinking, well, maybe he's taking something, or I mean, it's just, I don't know anything about athletics, right? But I know that so many sprinters have been tested positive for steroids. So I naturally question Usain Bolt running 9.58 seconds. Is it humanly possible? Is he on performance enhancing drugs? I'm not saying he is, but you naturally will question it. It's the same thing with people that are in the Tour de France, cycling, doing that, day after day, cycling 100 miles or whatever. It's like, is that humanly possible? A lot of people have been tested positive for it, so they look at it as in everyone's on a form of performance enhancing drugs, and I just don't want people to look at boxing that way, because really it's not. It's probably one of the cleanest sports out there. It's just been in the eye recently, and I don't think it helped that Canelo got tested positive for Klabuter or whatever it was called as well. So yeah, it's disappointing.
Shane, how do you expect this kind of story to unfold now, and what do you expect to be the next procedures, and kind of everybody trying to find out what's next for Conor? So obviously you had the initial findings in the A sample, when he goes away, does UCAD test, no issues there, but now everybody wants to know questions about the B sample. How would you expect it all to unfold, Shane?
Well, someone's got to be held accountable for it. There's a substance in his system. You need to figure out how he got that substance in the system, and he has to be honest and open and tell people the truth. So I also think, why isn't it recognized by UCAD? That drug, why don't we look? If UCAD is not as good as WADA, scrap UCAD off. Let's just get WADA. The border control have allocated amount of money to spend on doping system. If UCAD's not up to scratch, get WADA, get the best one possible. You know, like we need to make sure that all the athletes are clean and everyone's treated fairly. You know, it's like it's the same thing that happened with Billy Joe Saunders. You know, that nasal spray he was taking wasn't seen in the UK as a PED, but in America it was. So he got tested positive out there. Yeah, I just think like it's frustrating, but we should just go under one organisation.
Shane, for kind of Conor, how much does this taint him moving forwards?
Say it's anyone that's had an adverse finding. You know, Dylan White, for instance, like people can forget about it, but you know, was it twice? He got banned when he started boxing. People don't remember that, and then he got done again, and then the B sample didn't come through. So, you know, Tyson Fury got tested positive with nandrolone, I think it was, and then his B sample went amiss, and Hughie Fury had the same thing because he was out there at the same time, and you know, Canelo's been tested positive. It's Roy Jones Jr., James Toney, like these guys, yeah, have all tested positive for it, and Shane Mosley is a big story as well. So it's like, sorry,
you're still there, Shane?
Am I? Sorry,
yeah.
Someone's trying to call me. I should have taken it off. Yeah, it's annoyingly people can continue their careers after adverse findings. And look, I mean, if it's done as a fat stripper or something like that, it's not anywhere near as bad as a testosterone or a strength thing, but it's still a banned substance. So I think fighters have to be held accountable for it. And if the BBBSC or if commissions and governing bodies aren't going to go and crack the whip, then maybe other form of organisations should come in and take over. Whether that be, I know I saw Anthony Sims Jr. saying people should be getting done for attempted manslaughter. I mean, that's extreme, but maybe that is the level that they have to go to stop people trying to push the boundaries.
Shane, just moving away from that, I just want to get something off you around Daniel Dubois. Now, I saw some comments about people saying that you mentioned Daniel Dubois and Lucas Brown was happening. Obviously, that's not the case now. But what is the latest with Daniel? And can you just clear that up for anybody who kind of
so basically, look, I don't manage Daniel Dubois, Martin Bowers does, and Frank Warren, and they give me the name, and I have an input. I say who I would like him to fight and who I would want him to fight, and to further himself as a boxer, as an athlete, to gain recognition on the WBA regular belt. That he's got. So I know what these sort of situations are like. They have a budget, they try and get someone to fit the mold within the budget, and sometimes the opponents are a bit of a letdown, but the BBSC and the WBA rejected Lucas Brown, and rightfully so, because it was a senseless fight. But it's just about getting Daniel out, and he's been inactive. So he spent last year waiting on a chance to go out and box Trevor Bryant. We went the whole way to Miami to box Trevor Bryant. It lasted 2 versus 3 rounds or something like that. He's got a regular belt. Everyone's can have their opinion. He boxed a guy that wasn't up to scratch, and it's not really world titles. All right, well. Let's push Daniel Dubois as a headline. Let's push him as a main attraction. Let's get a lot of attention around him to then make marketable fights. And we wanted the Dylan fight, and I don't know what happened there. I think Dylan I think he might have priced himself out, or and it's just an unfortunate predicament that we're in. We have to fight someone in the top 15. Michael Hunter versus Hughie Fury isn't going on, so potentially that's a great fight. Michael Hunter, or because Hughie Fury is not able to box. So there's also there's a German guy that's potentially in the running as well. But it's down to the WBA as well to sort of force opponents on us, and then maybe things go to purse bids and stuff like that. If see how we go with that. If it doesn't get staged in the UK, then we'll have to go elsewhere. But we need to get recognition behind Daniel, because he's genuinely a world class fighter, and he lost to Joe Joyce, and everyone saw how that fight went down. But he was doing well in the fight, and he was only he just turned 25 now, so was he 23 years of age? Joe Joyce was a fully fledged man. He's 37 now, so he was well in his prime, and Daniel wasn't anywhere near fulfilling his true potential. But Daniel Dubois will fulfill his potential. He's learning all the time, and even against the Joyce fight, he still gave a great account of himself. He gave a much better account of himself than Joseph Parker, who was a former world champion. He caused way more problems to Joe Joyce than in my opinion than Joseph Parker did. And I think if we have that fight again, I think I'd be confident that Daniel will give a much better showing of himself, and I think he could beat him. But I understand people then point the finger and say, "Oh, why would you choose Lucas Brown and stuff?" Well, look, this is a business. It has to make sense. Daniel has to get paid. His opponents have to get paid. And if you're not a AJ, or if you're not a massive name, you're not going to sell out arenas, and the TV are only going to give you X amount of money. So things don't make sense. So it's like, all right, well, we have to find recognizable fights that's going to sell arenas and sell on the TV sides, and that's what we have to try and find. Or you go and box people that like Lucas Brown that don't cost an arm and leg,
Right, Shane, we'll leave it there now, because I see that you're getting quite a few phone calls coming through, and obviously you're on father duty now. But I appreciate your time. Obviously, I hope Ellie is in somewhat good spirits despite the last 24 hours. But yeah, thank you for speaking to me in ID Boxing.
Thanks, mate. Appreciate it.